Happiness is living by spiritual aesthetic flow. Chapter 1. Search for eternal vitality. Keep moving, keep a pure mind. This is the true meaning of life, to live for something recognized by ourselves as a mighty cause. To be a force of nature rather than a feverish little clod of grievances and ailments complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. I want to be totally used up when I die. For the harder I work doing what I love, the more I live. Life is no brief candle to me. It's a sort of splendid torch, its own justification, and I want to make it burn as much as I can before handing it on to future generations. George Bernard Shaw. I know nothing lasts because if I don't work hard to release my natural energy, I can go to depression within one day of self-betrayal. Tough as it sounds, the only way to happiness is to earn it through what you do. You can never stop. If you do, you end up like all them couch potatoes doing nothing intense in their lives, and they ain't happy regardless of what phony face they put on for the world. What is the most powerful force in the universe? Some people would say God or sex. I think the most powerful force you got is your spirit or divine seed given to you by whatever created you. What is it? It's your essence or purity at birth. What is the biggest regret of life? It is that I did not become the person I could have been, I did not release all the power inside of me, I did not do what I really wanted to do with my time. By 5 years old, if you're living in a family not always concerned with poverty, you will have had a chance to discover your soul or essence. I knew what my purity was at 5 years old. Then I went to school and got brainwashed by the world. Now my life is about staying close to my purity as a human being. All I ask of living is that it has no change on me. The happiest people are the ones who stay close to their spiritual purity by releasing most of their natural inspired, sexual and loving energy day after day. Spiritual aesthetic wealth is two things. How you manage to stay close to who you were born to be by nature. What was in your soul when you were born? Were you able to express that so far? How do you release your natural energy day after day with gusto for the process? Rise to meet your potential every day. I've seen people bright-eyed and bushy-tailed at 20, then I see them at 45 and say to myself they lost a hold of their natural spirits. They betrayed themselves by going out into the world, working some job that didn't inspire them. Little by little, day by day, they lost a hold of that natural beauty and strength they once had. Be true to yourself every day. Release that natural energy every day. It is the only way you will get through life pure and unscathed. Earn your self-respect and well-being by releasing most of your natural energy every day. The ideas of the world are fine for you to learn how to survive and for entertainment, but you still have your own innate wisdom. That should be your main source of power. Live one day at a time. Try to maximize each day to blow a good load of energy, because that's what makes anyone feel good, blowing a bunch of natural inspired, loving, carnal and hedonistic energy every day. It's just day by day. The best you can do is to try to get a rush out of your life every day. That's what makes it worthwhile, what you create every day. I don't know what anybody else's idea of a rush is. For me it's exertion with some intensity. There's gotta be an element of challenge to it, then after I'm done I get the high of having expended myself. It's a mix of the endorphins, the freeing effect on the spirit, and the self-respect I earned by doing whatever it is that I do most days. After that, I try to connect with the few people and pets in my life, then sometimes pursue the altered state of consciousness through the use of recreational substances. That's as good as it gets. You have an individual reality that's all yours if you want it, but for most people it's much easier to watch the news, a few sitcoms, than The Tonight Show, and think that the Super Bowl is exciting stuff, when in reality it's just a big money grab trying to turn us into a bunch of spectators buying into all that crap. Ideas help me keep moving. 1. Who are the greatest thinkers? Albert Einstein, Theory of Relativity. Aristotle, Organon. Charles Darwin, The Origin of the Species. D.H. Lawrence, Lady Chatterley's lover, proponent of the sensual life. Henry David Thoreau, Civil Disobedience, Walden. James Joyce, Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, The Social Contract, Thomas Jefferson, Declaration of Independence, Sir Isaac Newton, Principles of Mathematics, Thomas Paine, Common Sense. John Dewey, Human Nature and Conduct. John Locke, Treatise on Civil Government. John Milton, Areopagitica, Paradise Lost. Leonardo da Vinci, The Original Renaissance Man. Mahatma Gandhi, student of Thoreau's civil disobedience who pioneered the concept of nonviolent protest to free his nation. Margaret Sanger, Women's Liberation, The Women Rebel. Martin Luther, The 95 Theses at Wittenberg. Niccolò Machiavelli, The Prince, About the Cutthroat Nature of Man. Nicolaus Copernicus, The Revolution of the Skies. Ovid, Metamorphoses, Roman senator banished to an obscure island. Plato, Symposium. Ralph Waldo Emerson, Self-Reliance. Socrates, Know Thyself. Died for his beliefs. Timothy Leary, 60s hippie intellectual, among others. Voltaire, leader of the Enlightenment. Human nature starts at self-centeredness. There are some saints and evil bastards in the bunch, but most of us are gray. Our morality and inclinations depend on how we're feeling in the moment. If we're feeling good, we're kind and nice. If we're feeling bad, we get satisfaction out of dumping our frustrations onto others to make them feel bad. I know how horrible the world is. If you don't believe me, put any 10 people together like they do on all them TV reality shows and see how long it takes before they're scheming and gossiping against each other. How can we possibly talk about peace and love for the world when most families don't even get along with each other among themselves? Natural vitality and youthful spark is what matters. Culture your natural inspired power, then hold onto it for life. People don't change. They are who they are, the way they're born, and that's it. Just because society has some ritual about coming of age and becoming one of its soldiers doesn't mean it's inherently true to who you are as an individual. You still have the same soul as the kid you were at 5 years old. We sacrifice who we really are purely as individuals to try to become successful and happy according to the standards the world has set up for us. The real you is what you felt as that kid a long time ago before the crap of the world hit. Listen to your intuition over logic, your soul over your brain. Honor all the gods and demons that live inside you. Live out the heaven and hell that is you. The art of living is a lifelong vigilance to doing the action in your soul. Culture that Eden that exists in your soul, try to make it come to pass in real life. Think of your soul as an insular Tahiti, a beautiful, exotic island in the vast expanse of the oceans, a safe harbor in the midst of everything that's happening around you, just like a safe harbor in the midst of the raging oceans. Excess in anything that doesn't inherently come from your soul is an attempt to fill the void with some kind of substantial feeling, but it never works because you have to go to the core of your life, know who you are in your deepest soul, then do active things to use up this energy in a positive way, either for yourself or for the world. The darkest thing most people face is the fear of being alone, lonely, and the possibility that there's no God or no supernatural life force out there. My ultimate purpose is to find the mystical, creative realm within myself, then live it out with as much transcendence, inspiration, and pleasure as I can, both alone and with like-minded kindred spirit soulmates, as a free being in the universe living by the natural harmony within. If you were to read the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible, you'd see that even the powerful King Solomon, with all his money, all his wisdom, all his achievements, all his pursuits of pleasure, didn't find enlightenment because he measured everything by the standards of the world, not the standard within himself, and didn't realize the only worth life has is the worth you give it. I thought about all I had done and how hard I had worked doing it, and realized that it didn't mean a thing. It was like chasing the wind, of no use at all. Ecclesiastes 2:11. If you hold onto your youthfully inspired spark for a lifetime, you win the game. The fundamental essence of happiness in the transcendent sense is to know your true identity and live to honor it. A well-fed body reveals an empty soul. Comfort creates spiritual complacency. Ideas help me keep moving too. A sense of fulfillment comes when you constantly strive to be the person you were born with the potential to be by releasing all that natural energy you feel inside of you all the time. Love did not solve the problem of my existential uncertainty in life. Who am I? Why am I here? What is life? Is there any meaning to it? Is there something beyond this in the mystical realm? People get detached from the purity or essence they were born as, usually by not discovering what it is and or not expressing exercising it constantly throughout their lives, every day because they have been handily brainwashed to follow life as presented by the system. This is what losing yourself or betraying yourself means, and the world is full of these people brainwashed by the system's ideology over their own personal ideologies that they were born with, imprinted on their souls. You can't buy self-respect or a sense of well-being. You're not born with it. Other people can't give it to you by either loving you or telling you how great you are. You either earn it for yourself day by day or you don't. Life is supposed to be an original, intense, inspired adventure. Everything fades over time except for your sense of who you are, who you want to be, and what you feel you must do by some invisible force within yourself called your soul, aka your soul/essence. You have to earn a living out in the world, but you don't have to sell your soul to it. Life should be a paradise in your mind, a quest to live out your vision of the Garden of Eden as much as you can. You either make a conscious decision to live like this and strive to honor it, or you live a considerably less salient life. I want to mean something to me. If you constantly purge your life energy, you will always feel fine. You can't own people. All material possessions can only take you so high in the aesthetic spiritual sense, which is pretty low level in the grand scheme of life. Then the rest is what you do to take you there, to that feeling of power, euphoria, and freedom. All you really own is the sensibility about yourself every morning when you wake up. By 40, your biography becomes your biology. Do you feel like you still got something going on that attracts the opposite sex in a basic, primal kinda way? It's a good simple test to measure your vitality or lack of it. You know intuitively whether you got it or not. Søren Kierkegaard said the feeling of possibility is what a great life comes down to, which is the constant sense of being inspired. If I were to wish for anything, I should not wish for wealth and power, but for the passionate sense of potential, for the eye which, ever young and ardent, sees the possible. Pleasure disappoints, possibility never. It is very dangerous to go into eternity with possibilities which one has oneself prevented from becoming realities. A possibility is a hint from God. One must follow it. Your pets don't set goals. They live for the joy of the moment. Why do my dogs like to run around in the fields? If you set a goal and reach it, what then? You feel empty again. You have no sense of who you really are in your essence as a human being. You're just setting plotting capitalist goals that originate from the standards out there, just like they taught you to in grade school. It's not like you're dancing to the journey of your life. And what happens if you don't reach your goals? You get depressed. The world is the land of broken dreams. Most people do not achieve their goals and dreams, then feel deficient for the rest of their lives because they're measuring their worth by standards set by the outside world as opposed to following their souls purely. I even know an old dude who still feels inferior because he never got a college degree. Anybody that knows anything knows that a college degree is just a cheap credential from the world system, no different than the stars they gave out in grade 1. You forget almost everything you learned in college in a few years. The true intellectuals are the free thinkers who discover the intuitive wisdom within themselves and analyze their experiences out in the world to develop their own understanding of it. The dominant ideology for mainstream America is a Christian conservative capitalist mix. It's contradictory because you can't be a Christian and a capitalist at the same time. It's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle, even though millions simultaneously live by these two mutually exclusive ideologies. It's called hypocrisy. Implicit with this is the paternalistic, father figure image, people who know what's best for us better than we know ourselves. Our current father figures are God, religious leaders, business leaders, politicians, police officers, teachers, benevolent-looking older people on TV talk show hosts, TV news anchors and pitch people in commercials. A lot of people want to do something that inspires them rather than work some dull job according to the traditional work ethic. Monogamy, aka marriage to one person, doesn't work for a lot of people. Some people are hedonistic, polyamorous, gay, bisexual, or asexual. A lot of people don't see raising kids as the path to happiness. The traditional white picket fence ain't in the cards and doesn't work out for millions of people, but it's held up as the key to happiness in life. Many free people want to have fun with consenting adults doing whatever they want in the moment. Many people want to catch a buzz using substances that the government deems illegal. People want to be free to do what they want without being talked down to by relics left over from the McCarthy era, when Senator McCarthy thought he was righteous in conducting witch hunts to look for commies and anybody who disagreed was a traitor. The people who control the wealth, power, and the mass media act as the supreme moral authority who got the answers on the right way to live, and that's it. My moral authority is that I can do anything I want alone or with adults who want to do it with me. What other people do in private is none of my business. My rights stop where other people's rights start. Beyond that, I'm free to live my life my way. It's like the 1999 movie Pleasantville. Underneath the superficial facade of a picture-perfect life, there was all kinds of prejudice against gays, blacks, beatniks, swingers, and anybody who didn't fit into this one-dimensional paradigm of life. All the psychobabble in the world about changing is a big pile of crap. Once somebody starts talking about helping somebody change like many psychobablists do, I know they're not enlightened, because the human is not a malleable piece of clay who can change their inherent nature by following generic one-liner advice some so-called system-sanctioned expert gives them. You can teach an animal all the stupid pet tricks you want, but they're just transient behavior modifications that go away if not practiced after a few days, because you can't change an animal's true nature. They are what they are. The highest they can go is to live by their true natures without interference from exploitative humans. The greatest life anyone can live is to make an effort to release all their inherent natural energy every day. Friedrich Nietzsche said, "Become what you are," which is as simple as it gets, especially in a world where just about everybody and every organization is trying to manipulate you to be the way they want you to be to serve their agenda, not yours. Henry David Thoreau once said that most men live lives of quiet desperation. Franz Kafka, in Metamorphoses, wrote about how the industrial age has divorced man from his true nature by putting him to work on a schedule in factories and office buildings, which goes against the more natural way a person could live, closer to the land, closer to his own nature. Figure out your life enough to realize that the only truly happy, enlightened people are those who know how to stay inspired day after day and set out a systematic formula to achieve this end for themselves. The distinction between being purely inspired for its own sake and doing something to achieve a concrete objective in the capitalist world is to be absorbed in it for the joy you feel while you're doing it, and afterwards, it gives you your sense of strength and identity, which is the core of happiness, to have a strong sense of identity away from the crap of the world. This is the greatest fountain of youth and one of the few true elixirs of life I know. This is what makes you feel good, the process of releasing this spiritual primal energy from the essence that is you. If I release a good dose of it on any given day, which I consciously strive to do every day, it's like I blew my load of being me, my pure self, for the day, which to me means I've honored myself the way my God made me. I've done the duty that He, the Divine Master, put me on earth to do for that day. I'm in harmony with my nature for the moment. If I don't release this energy, it sits inside of me unused, leading to feelings of loss of self, misery, and depression if left unchecked over time. Over 2,500 years ago, Plato described the true philosopher as a spectator of all time and all existence, a person of gentle and noble nature who desires all truth, seeks to be like God as far as that is possible for man. Human enlightenment never changes, it's always the desire for the transcendent in life, to go beyond convention to see what's there for yourself. A life of free spiritism may mean stepping out of your comfort zone and facing real danger, like running out of money to have no safety net, but I believe in throwing caution to the wind sometimes to live out what you believe in, come hell or high water. The only real standard is the standard within and the extent to which you honor it all the time till death do you part. If you can get close to reaching it, it's kinda like a youthful feeling of inspired madness, running with the wind, spirits soaring on high, being who you really are, wild, untamed, natural, pure, and free, a version of your strongest possible self, alive in the flesh, vital and happy, influenced by nothing in the world except for what you feel in your soul. It conjures up an image of a manic, wild-eyed Van Gogh painting Starry Night, looking up at the skies, struck by the beauty of it all, trying to transcend his mundane human limits somehow, some hippie intellectual doing deep hallucinogenics trying to get higher feelings and greater ideas, somebody dancing around freely to their favorite song full blast with nobody else around to make them feel self-conscious, a writer struck by a moment of profound inspiration, writing madly, trying to get it all out of himself, some hedonist seeking out rushes of intense carnal euphoric bliss through the pursuit of sensual pleasures, or some super jock running as fast as he can constantly trying to outdo himself. It's all about the release of intense inspired sensual energy any way you can all the time in order to keep running with life feeling good, rejuvenating yourself. The Buddhists and the New Agers can meditate all they want, but if they just sit in a room or temple somewhere and don't release that natural energy that lives inside of them, they're wasting their lives, just like all those capitalists chasing illusions of business and career success that won't elevate their states of consciousness if and when they get there. Success out in the world is good, but it's still not the wisdom of following your true, inherent standard. Beyond a basic house with the basic material comforts and a basic vehicle, everything else in your life is in your head, even the state of your relationships with people. To be alone, to be poor in needs, to be ignored, to be an outsider who is at home everywhere, and to walk greatly and by oneself, toward the conquest of the world. His estate has no limits, his empire no laws. No work bends him towards the ground, for the bounty and beauty of the earth are already his. Isabel Eberhard, The Oblivion Seekers. The meaning of soul is creativity and mysticism. Otto Rank. Aristotle, in Nicomachean Ethics, identified 4 factors of happiness. Pleasure, our base instincts. Honor, self-respect, dignity. Wealth as a means to an end to free you from trivial matters, not as an end in itself. A life of contemplation and reason, the intellectual pursuit of truth, the highest order. He ended his discussion of happiness with the ideal of the great-souled man. To be good, virtuous, intense for what he believes in, self-sufficient, cares more for reality than appearance and speaks the truth, he is not servile in the presence of the great or wealthy nor condescending towards people of middle station, he does not bear malice nor is he apt to speak ill of his enemies, his happiness is not dependent on the company of others, he takes pleasure in privacy, unlike the man of no virtue who fears solitude. Ideas help me keep moving. 3. In his essay Self-Reliance, Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do not seek yourself outside yourself, every man his own voice, manner, eloquence, and his own sort of imagination and action. Let him scorn to imitate any being, let him scorn to be a secondary man, whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist. Nothing is at last sacred but the integrity of your own mind. Imitation is suicide." He also said, "Congratulate yourselves if you have done something strange and extravagant and broken the monotony of a decorous age." In the back of some of his versions of Walden, you'll see one of Thoreau's essays called On the Need to be Civilly Disobedient, which tells you to live by what you believe in, because quite often the political and religious forces around you set up pragmatic rules created by a bunch of selfish men out to serve themselves, not the greater good. So the bottom line is that you're a free being in the universe, your only standard is what you feel in your soul. Einstein, in The World as I See It, cites his ideals as truth, goodness, and beauty as opposed to material things or status. Bertrand Russell said, "It is preoccupation with possession, more than anything else, that prevents people from living nobly and freely." Michelangelo was hooked on sculpting stone as a kid even though his father tried to get him out of it because working with your hands was considered a lowly profession. After all his accomplishments and his appointment as the architect of St. Peter's Cathedral, the only thing that ever gave him any real satisfaction was his one true passion in life, sculpting stone, which he did every day until his death at 89. Even with all his fame and wealth, he was still happiest sculpting, living on a simple stonecutter's diet, bread and wine. That's what kept him vital for 89 years on the planet, nothing else. Do you want to be a power in the world? Then be yourself. Be true to the highest within your soul and then allow yourself to be governed by no customs or conventionalities or arbitrary man-made rules that are not founded on principle. Ralph Waldo Emerson, 1803–1882. We do not live out who we really are the way we were born to be. We become fakes, caricatures, stereotypes, empty shells, lost souls, images of pop culture coolness, capitalist success, professional people, VIPs, holy rollers, sports fans, Trekkies, etc. But through it all, it's not the real you in your soul. Life is really very simple. Those who win are the ones who get to the end with this vision intact. They honored it by living it. They didn't let the outside world seduce, manipulate, brainwash, or destroy them. The hunger of life is to discover who you really are. Where is the truth? It's in your soul. We have this concept of fine living or the luxury lifestyle marketed at us as a qualitative leap in the enjoyment of life over basic comfort, but it's not true, at least not for me, because I feel the exact same every day when I wake up and my surroundings have nothing to do with it as long as I slept in a basic bed with a roof over my head as opposed to being out on the street. People constantly upgrade their houses, putting in saunas, hot tubs, theater rooms, popcorn machines, etc. But the truth is that all this stuff doesn't come close to an individual living to burn his natural energy, getting those highs that only people who live like this understand. This is the only way to feel anywhere from good to great almost all the time. What is the ability to watch a music video on your cell phone gonna do to enhance your life? It's not only part of the contribution to the obesity crisis, but it also sucks out whatever could be original, inspired and vital within an individual to produce a bunch of brainwashed clones trying to be cool based on some images they saw on some screen somewhere. They have brainwashed us with the idea that the more gadgets and luxurious stuff we own over and above what we need for the basics of a comfortable life, the happier we'll be. But what really happens is that we get a bunch of soft, puffy, vain, frivolous, complacent, brainwashed people, which is counterintuitive to getting true joy out of life, which is to manifest your pure, naked, natural self. George Orwell realized that most of us would be willing participants to the grand brainwashing machine. We would buy into it hand and foot, then look to it to fill up this paternalistic need we have that some benevolent big brother is always watching over us, which is a good delusion to keep the masses in check, but doesn't work if you're a nonconformist, because they give your ass lots of trouble one way or another until they've nullified you from this great, grand, smoothly rolling establishment machine of happy conformist consumers. In Modern Man in Search of a Soul, Carl Jung's highest virtue was to live as an artist of life. Simone Weil in La Connaissance Surnaturelle said the goal of life is to construct an architecture of the soul. Ideas help me keep moving for. Follow the beat of your own drum. It's better for you. My identity is simple. I'm a bohemian who wants to ride my life, feel good and have as many inspired euphoric experiences as I can. I want to earn my living doing what naturally inspires me and makes me feel good, and beyond that, I want to be free to own my life to do with as I please. I have very few material needs, nor do I care what people say to me or about me, either good or bad. I don't care about the trophies and accolades of the world. I don't care about fame or status within the community. My life is within me, honoring who I am, staying true to my soul. All my actions start there. I don't follow any other agenda, deity, or lifestyle brand from the world. Most people don't know they have a built-in, inherent standard they were born with of how they should live their lives. They were handily brainwashed at a young age to follow the system's way of life without ever questioning it and examining themselves to see who they really are away from all that stuff. They either live by the standards of the world, which I did up until the age of 28, the basic standards of success, capitalism, pop culture entertainment, God, patriotism, and the traditional work ethic, or they're aimless floaters plugged into pop culture entertainment and all that other crap out there. You have to honor yourself in order to feel good. It's not about what you achieve out in the world. Feeling good about your life is simply self-respect achieved by being true to yourself. Being true to yourself means following your true nature by releasing that natural energy you feel inside. I am trying to be the person I want to be by releasing good amounts of energy to achieve that end. This is the best you can ever do. When you live like this, you're tapped into the natural pulse of your life. As long as you keep running with this release of your inherent energy, you'll be feeling pretty good almost all the time simply by riding your life the way you feel it. Watch TV with a critical eye some night. It's all about sales. All the programs are paid for by advertising. They're not just trying to sell you stuff. They're trying to take your mind over so that you can become their eternal consumer. What do you think movies, professional sports, and pop culture entertainment are? They're an invasion of the pure you. They take away from the original, inspired soul you could have, should have been. Everything in capitalist society is based on selling more stuff. They know they can't sell it on its own merit because consumer goods follow the law of diminishing marginal returns, which means that after you have 2 or 3 shirts, cars, radios, etc., having more of these things don't help you much in terms of making your life better or easier, so the advertisers have cleverly devised a system of marketing products as image such that if you buy product A, a cool sports car, a cool pair of brand name running shoes, cool clothes, etc., you will automatically belong to the cool, trendy in crowd of mainstream, pop culture society, which will get you what you want, to be a popular person in the popular group with lots of friends, and the thing they make you think is that if you buy multiple quantities of product A, your happiness will multiply exponentially, but enlightened people know this isn't true. Because you are now a popular person according to advertising ideology, the presumption is that you'll be able to find a good mate and have a loving, happy family, and thirdly, you'll be a star, conspicuously better than everyone else, superior to them, because as the owner of all these consumer goods, you are a winner and a very happy person according to these advertisers who have brainwashed you. People who live for image are elitist in the sense that they think they're better than others by trying to advertise the fact that they're trendy. On top of that, they're greedy, selfish, and they have sacrificed their own originality to live according to someone else's definition of what is cool, inspired, and happiness. Ultimately, it doesn't work. Despite how glittery and cool you think you are now, everybody's charms fade by the time they're 40, and by virtue of your age, you're no longer a part of the cool, young generation of society. That's the unwritten rule. You have the ability to be a part of the cool, young in crowd until 40, then after that, if you still want a superior image, you have to start acting like an upper-class snob, because that's all you got left if you haven't consciously been protecting your youthful spark and vitality through inspired, original living up until now. The advertisers market the idea of belonging to the hip, cool, popular crowd to people under 40, then after that, they're marketing the image of being upper class, elitist, distinguished, sophisticated, and exclusive at you, separating yourself from the generic, common riffraff out there, because that's all you have left by then, your money, most likely not your health, your looks, youthful spark, inspired sensibility, or vitality, since you've been a working stiff and haven't lived by the free spirit ideology. Besides all that, you're a loner in your head. You're an individual who must answer to yourself in order to feel some truly good feelings and solid stability in your life, and on top of that, nobody out there really cares about you and your so-called cool image. Nobody except for the phony, trendy in-crowders and the people who wanna be these phony, trendy in-crowders cares about who's lining up to get into the trendiest nightclub in town. The faces will change, but the absolute certainty is that there will always be a bunch of people playing this game because they're looking for some kind of social approval to make up for their otherwise empty lives, but they don't realize they're not among true friends because everyone in that crowd is trying to appear as a self-centered star to everyone else. So this is what excessive capitalism has spawned, a bunch of people with more stuff than they'll ever need trying to impress everybody else. With how cool, successful and happy they are. You don't know what other people are thinking of. They're not thinking about you 10% of what you think they are. They're thinking about themselves, how cool and trendy they look, or what they have to do to make money and otherwise be happy. When you live for image, you're basing your self-worth on how trendy you look and what others think of you. As such, you're at their mercy. What if they don't notice you anymore or put you down? What about all those days when you don't feel like the cock of the walk? indiemedia.org. Media.org, anti-advertising. mediagk.net. Ideas help me keep moving. 5. You can be friends with people and use what's out there to help and entertain you, but there is a line between you and the world, and it's up to you as to how much you want to let it fill you up. I don't know what low self-esteem or wounded, inner child, past baggage is. I trash it because I don't believe it exists except as an artifact of overzealous mental health experts' minds. It's a great tool to make money, convince people that their problem is something buried in their past, then spend endless sessions psychoanalyzing them at $100+ per hour. How different am I from Tarzan of the jungle or some primitive native living 10,000 years ago? How much of me is cultural indoctrination? What's all this crap they're teaching me called liberal arts, acting like it's this deep, profound, formal knowledge and wisdom, while I feel like laughing at it all, telling them they're all a bunch of deluded, stupid people by virtue of buying into this stuff, pretending they're wise and enlightened when they're really just timid souls, not strong enough to see past it all to trust themselves as the instruments of their own destiny. I stuck with the college scene for a while like any young, naive, scared kid unsure of themselves. After all, it is the traditional path to the American dream, everybody telling you to stay in school, get a good education, but where does that really lead to? In over 90% of all cases, it leads to a dull, uninspiring job, or as they call it, a career. What about doing your own thing, having the guts to feel you can earn a living through your own efforts in what you want to do and believe in, but they don't tell you about that option in school? I eventually realized that it's just me with this inner conviction and personal standard of how I should live my life. My life moves forward, not backward. The past means nothing to me. I'm all about action, expending myself for the day, then thanking my lucky stars that I have this vitality, inspiration, and joy to do those things that I do. It's really just you alone as you are right now in your essence as a human being, with an inner knowing, an inner standard, and an inner sense of destiny of what you must do day by day in order to feel proud of yourself when you look at the mug in the mirror. If you don't constantly release natural inspired energy from the soul, you start to lose yourself, which is the cause of almost all the depression in the world, except for traumatic events, which often cause you to sit around and mope such that you're not releasing your natural energy, so you will get depressed in a matter of a week or two of inactivity. The Buddhists and others claim you get fulfillment by sitting in one place, being peaceful and contemplating life, which I've done as a naive young guy looking for enlightenment, but it's not enough. People were created to be active, not to sit around contemplating their navels or watching TV all the time. We all have a natural store of potential energy in us every morning when we wake up. I know that I must release it in order to feel good to great about my life right now in the transcendent sense. My life is simple. Every day I must answer to my own personal standard of releasing a certain amount of energy in those activities that I deem are important and worthy to me. When I release this energy, I feel good to great. If I don't release it, it sits inside of me unused, and over time leads to loss of self, which a guy like me never allows to happen because of my personal standard of self-respect. But most people of the world lose a connection to their true essences as human beings, either consciously or unconsciously, without realizing it. Every time you compromise your soul or sell it, it resonates somewhere deep within your being. Unused energy and the angst builds up from dishonoring yourself by selling your soul for either money, status, power, or popularity. The more there is of each of them inside of you, the more messed up you are. These pollutants manifest themselves by confusing your soul, making it tired, generic, mundane and uninspired. They sap your health. People's true selves are written all over them. The things you might own or your perceived status out in the community have no bearing on your real self, which is that essence in that blob of flesh. Nobody can give you that inspired sense of vitality that enlightened, powerful people have but you. This bland, empty, internal feeling that comes from selling your soul and not using up your store of natural energy has been a great money maker for those phony industries called self-help, psychobabble, New Ageism and even religion, who come in claiming your problem is something other than the fact that you are not constantly purging your natural essence as a human being all the time. They try to sell you some phony, psycho-bamboozle knowledge that never works because human existence is basic for enlightened people. Continue to run with all your gusto, joy, and might, releasing all that energy that lives inside of you, and after you release a certain amount for the day, sit back and relish in the sensual, loving, and hedonistic parts of life. You might connect with a soulmate, have children, and some kindred spirit friends along the way, and for the activist-minded, you might reach out and touch your community in a worthwhile way, but the bulk of life is lived alone in one's head, and until you can look at the mug in the mirror and feel you're doing the right things with your life according to what you feel in your soul, there will always be a gnawing sense of emptiness within you. Watch a dog or a cat sometimes. When they release their natural energy, they feel good. When they don't, such as if you keep them cooped up in the house all the time, they feel bad. Relationships with people are simple. Be kind and friendly. If you can't because you hate someone or can't stand them for one reason or another, stay away from those people. If somebody treats you badly or you don't like them, which is more common than we let on, stay away, even if it is somebody you're related to by blood. My vision quest, I found the divine spark in me. I am a good person following the course in life that I feel I should by the natural forces in my soul in order to do something worthy with it for me and the world. This was revealed to me by a force at about the age of 23 when I went on a vision quest. A buddy gave me some mushrooms to eat, and in a little while, this hidden force came flooding out. Some people call it the soul/essence. Some call it the gods within, and still others think it's part of the collective unconscious, a part of us as the human race locked up somewhere in our genetic seed that houses some primordial memory of the divine force that created us. I saw myself for who I really was. Some force within me came flooding out telling me that I was a good person doing the right thing with my life, on the right track in using up my God-given energy to do something that will be a positive force in the world and benefit humanity somehow. I didn't force it. This feeling and these thoughts just spilled out when I took enough recreational substances to break the barrier between the conscious and the subconscious mind. This led me to conclude that my inner base, my essence as a human being, my soul is good. Back then I was a college kid interested in exploring my life. Sensual aesthetic sensations are good for a season, generally the season of youth, but when you pack on a few years of life experience, you gradually come to the realization that a life of maximizing your sensations without a backbone of moral fiber or personal accountability to what you feel inside becomes rather meaningless. The pursuit of intense sensual sensations was the great force of my youth. I wanted to get the full breadth of the human experience in all things, ranging from intense inspired physical exertion to feeling all facets of the sex and drugs hedonistic ideology. My days are spent expunging my physical, inspired, loving and hedonistic energy because it's my essence as a human being. In order to honor myself, I can never stop being who I am. We all have a good, wholesome, positive essence we were born with. The happy, noble people will eventually get over the brainwash of the world to realize the only thing that matters is to follow this essence. This essence is you. You can't change it. It's your blueprint. It's up to you to choose how brightly or dimly it burns. There are a lot of evil and negative people out there who have not manifested their own essences and don't understand why they are so miserable, so they will take out this anger by trying to dim this light in other people. There is no rhyme or reason to it. Sad, bad people want to see others sad too in order to bring themselves up a notch. I don't think most people start out too bad or evil, but they lose their way. The rat race to make money and achieve status out in the community turn a lot of people into a bunch of backstabbing cheats and rip-off artists. You have to rise above it all and stay true to who you really are if you want your own dignity within yourself. Choose to keep your light strong and allow it to burn brightly. Use that power to become the person you were meant to be and pass it on to others. Choose to be a positive force for you and the world. Manifest your strength and creativity to be a happy, inspired, loving being. Be true to yourself. Take comfort in knowing that you're doing the right thing with your life. You can't live in a vacuum of hedonism and self-centered inspiration forever without feeling some sort of emptiness. The process of enlightenment is to come to the realization that you want to matter somehow, to feel that your life has some meaning beyond you, that you have something tangible to offer that can help people live better lives. You want to feel that the essence and energy that is you is used up to some extent to do something productive, worthy, and useful for the world, even if it is for the selfish motive of satisfying yourself that you're doing something worthy to feel more whole. Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Galileo, and many other great originals throughout history weren't particularly benevolent souls. They just knew what they felt and had to live by it to expunge all that energy they felt inside. A side benefit was the great things they did for humanity, but aside from that, they were doing these things because they felt they had to from a force within themselves. Great visionary minds feel that their lives have a divinely inspired purpose, that they're doing something from within that goes beyond themselves because it's their calling from a great force beyond themselves that gave them the blueprint to do whatever it is they do before they were even born. All people of destiny think like this. Beyond this, there's the accountability factor. Anybody who's wise and enlightened reaches a point where they see all the sadness, misery, inequity, and inequality in the world. To see all this and to continue on living in capitalist bliss is morally wrong. There are no two ways about it. To live in frivolous excess while there is so much need in the world is, on a gut intuitive level, wrong. There is one world of silly TV shows and glossy TV commercials where everybody is acting easy breezy, cool, trendy, and frivolous, seemingly oblivious to all the pain, suffering and injustice in the world, while at the same time, there are homeless, sick, hungry people everywhere. You can't serve two masters. You can't be a frivolous, pop culture capitalist clone on the one hand and claim to consciously be a good person who loves the world and helps out in the compassionate sense at the same time. The two don't mix. This is the big hypocrisy in our society. We think we're good people, but we're not by virtue of all the crap we own and what we spend our leisure time on. We're self-centered hedonists, but we think we're nice, kind, compassionate people. How can anybody with a true conscience engage in meaningless, frivolous ventures when they're perfectly aware of all the people out there who could use some kind of help right now? I take what I need, I try to respect everything and help out in my own way wherever I can. People do inane, frivolous things that the system defines for them as pleasurable rather than looking into themselves to actually do something natural, original, euphoric, transcendent, and inspired with their lives. The world needs another pop singer like it needs a hole in the head. I thought that it was supposed to be negative, for anyone to aspire to be an idol. In fact, it's one of the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not worship false gods, idols. It implies elitism and vanity, based on what? Some frivolous gimmick. It's not even vanity based on something substantial. I can see if you discover a cure for a disease or create a new technological innovation, but vanity based on prancing around lip-syncing a song, trying to act sultry and cool is a great metaphor for why our Western, capitalist societies are going down the tubes. If you want transcendence, ecstasy, and happiness, create it yourself by doing something inspired, original, intense and worthy from within. To me, there are two necessary constituents of enlightenment. 1. the sense and moral conviction that you're a good person doing something worthy with your life. 2. A constant inspired release or expression of the energy that lives in your soul to match your personal standard of who you are and how you should live. You need these two ingredients in order to honestly like what you see when you look at the mug in the mirror. Do you feel that you're doing something that makes the best use of your God-given talents to both earn a living and help others? Feelin' lonely? Get over it. Most of us want a perfect love with one or more people that lasts a lifetime, but regardless of whether you get it or not, you as an individual are always there, stuck in your head alone. Loneliness is as much cultural indoctrination as it is a natural inherent part of our nature. Cultural indoctrination makes it seem much worse than it actually is because it is the human condition to be alone, stuck in your head. If you accept that this is the reality of your life and get on with trying to live a great one, you'll be a lot better off than all the lonely hearts, both married and single, neurotic about not being loved or connected enough. Society has conditioned us to feel empty if we don't feel as though we're connected to another person, a group, an organization, etc. This fear of being alone is so bad that it's a deep neurosis in millions of people, especially women. They feel really bad if they're alone with no one around to feel connected to and often fall to pieces, but to me, it's all typical human weakness and foolishness. You're always stuck with you alone. That's the existential human condition. When you connect to your own identity and live by it, you have stability and peace within. You're not neurotic about anything. You accept your life and the human condition in general. If you can feel comfortable in your own skin and live by a personal standard that always keeps you active, inspired, entertained and stimulated, you win the game of life. It's your unique right of time and you should do exactly as you feel within your soul rather than playing some societal image game or trying to conform to society's ideals of success, coolness, and happiness. These are all delusions created by society to make you constantly feel neurotic that you're never quite rich enough, attractive enough, popular enough, or have enough status to match some illusory in-crowd standard out there. So the game of capitalism is to get you to destroy yourself trying to reach society's version of success, happiness and coolness in order to make you a quiet, pacified, easily managed eternal consumer. The truth is that nobody really gives a damn about how cool or successful you are unless they're either a pop culture flake who thinks there's a mythical in-crowd out there that they want to be part of or thinks they can get something out of you. In general, they're too busy living in their own delusion worrying about their images rather than thinking about how cool and happening you are, while enlightened, free people see past all the bull and live by what they feel in their souls. I wake up every morning alone in my head just like you. It's like this every morning. It never changes. There's nothing I can do to change that fact of life even when I have one or more lovers, kindred spirits, relatives, friends, and soulmates around me. For me, I know right away that I have no choice in what I must do if I'm to honor myself for the individual human being I want to be, which is to go off right away and release some of that natural inspired energy my God endowed me with. This is what I do every single day of my life in order to reach that certain standard of expenditure and expression that makes me feel really good to great about my life on any given day. This process never ends. You never reach a high state of consciousness, have a great feeling, then stay there for life. You have to keep recreating it by attempting to purge your energy to reach your limits, or as some people call it, to free yourself from the generic mundanity of the human condition in order to metaphorically fly for a while. For everyone who's not enlightened, regardless of whether they feel loved or not, if they don't understand that this is the only formula for well-being, happiness and transcendence, and don't live to honor themselves by constantly intensely releasing natural, potential, inspired, hedonistic, sensual and loving energy, they will be generic human beings. They will not have stellar feelings about themselves or within themselves, regardless of how loved they think they are, whatever material possessions they have, or whatever praises the world sings at them, because it's really all about the journey in your head, which is the mission control that propels you to action, which should be the driving force of your life, some kind of high energy action to make you feel like you're taking your life for a great ride today. What we got is a bunch of people going to school, taking courses that are not really intrinsically interesting to them, working jobs or running businesses they don't really like that don't tap into their store of natural inspired energy. The net result is a bunch of mundane, generic people running around each living in pop culture, capitalist fantasies of their own creation with their store of natural energy stuck inside of them unused, lurking in there like a spiritual cancer while they continue to be battered and polluted by the capitalist pop culture media agenda when they watch TV, read magazines, listen to the radio, etc. Then they wonder why they feel empty and have what the system calls low self-esteem. The TV talk shows perpetuate this state of affairs by using all kinds of psychobabble but never clearly understanding why, despite all of our technological advancements, we live in such a lost society with empty souls running around brainwashed by the system, not realizing they are detached from their true natures as individual human beings. Most of us are brainwashed to have a neurotic need to be liked by others so much that we constantly seek approval as a measure of self-worth. Then when we don't get it, we go to pieces. You're giving others control over you. When you cease to be concerned about what others think of you and concern yourself with living a great life according to your own standards, other people can't manipulate you or make you feel guilty for not meeting their standard anymore. The other big one in relationships with people is the capitalist philosophy of trying to control others in the name of leadership, elitism, arrogance, power, money, and status. You never really control anyone else anyway, because as soon as you're gone like the boss of a company, everybody goes back to playing their own game. So why waste time trying to either fill other people's minds up with thoughts of how fabulous you are or trying to control them outright? Focus on living a great life for yourself. Everything from the liberal arts academic realms as opposed to the hard sciences, the pop culture entertainment industry, the mainstream media, religion, and New Ageism are all artificial constructs used to somehow control you or turn you into a good, pacified consumer who spends his or her money on these things thinking that they are there for the common good, which is your good, when they're really there for their own good, whilst trying to manipulate you into thinking they're there for your good. I'm not suggesting there's an organized conspiracy, just a loose alliance of like-minded forces who want to control the people to either sell them stuff or keep them stupid, brainwashed and pacified on the stuff they call pop culture entertainment, New Ageism, liberal arts knowledge, religion, etc. There is an intuitive wisdom within you. There is also knowledge and wisdom out there from mainstream forces and from other, alternative forces. I won't put down mainstream knowledge and wisdom with one broad stroke of a brush, just say be wary about everything.